If someone had pulled me aside and said I'd finally find some real clarity surrounded by tiny appetizers and fake, too bright smiles, I would have laughed it off and gone right back to nursing my lukewarm coffee. But that's exactly how it went down, right there, standing in front of an ice sculpture shaped like our company's logo, with a sax player in the corner blowing out Marvin Gaye covers. Name's Liam. I'm just regular old me, a 41-year-old IT compliance analyst out of Ashford. I'm the guy who rotates the same 3 cardigans and counts ceiling tiles when a room gets too noisy. Talking's never been my strong suit. I'm the guy who says sorry when someone else runs into me. The one who apologizes for the delay even when I reply to an email in 5 minutes flat. The kind of guy women usually glance right past, unless they've got a broken PDF that needs saving. My wife's name is Amelia. She's stunning, electric, sharp enough to slice through glass. She's in brand partnerships at the same company I work for. Used to call me Lee, too, like it made me stand a little taller somehow. We've been married 8 years. No kids. Just 2 goldfish we forget to feed half the time. And these days, way too many nights where she's still at the office while I sit alone in our apartment, poking at cold dinners, wondering if she ever really liked mushroom risotto or if that was just one of those things she pretended to like for my sake. But the thing that changed everything? It wasn't a suspicious text. It wasn't lipstick smudged on a collar. It wasn't even some drunken confession. It was a feather. Just one. A single black crow feather. I stumbled on it tucked inside her work planner, wedged between pages full of her flawless cursive and those neatly color-coded meetings. I only found it because I was digging around for a receipt she needed. I brought it up, laughing it off, thinking maybe it was part of some trendy campaign. She froze up. Then she smiled, a slow, strange kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes, and said it was nothing. Just some silly inside joke with her team. And that was that. She slipped off into the bathroom, and I just stood there with that feather in my hand like it was scorching my skin. People always talk about their gut instinct kicking in, right? Well, mine didn't just kick, it screamed. Still, I didn't say a word. Not then. Not when another feather showed up later, this time sitting on the driver's seat of her car after a so-called strategy offsite. Not when she changed her phone password for the first time in forever. Not even when she started humming songs I'd never heard before in the shower, smiling like there was someone else standing there with her. Nope. I stayed quiet. Like a coward. Like I always do. Right up until the gala. The night she finally reached out for my hand. The night I whispered the words I never thought would come out of my mouth. But hold on, I'll get there. First, you need to know what happened before all that. What I found out. What I put up with. What I saw with my own 2 eyes. How a quiet man in a threadbare cardigan finally broke all the way apart. It was the Tuesday before the gala when I hit rock bottom. The apartment was dead silent. No soft jazz bleeding through Amelia's side of the Spotify account. No clatter of keys in the lock. No fake surprise when she'd find me still awake. Just me, a sad cup of weak tea, and her laptop bag parked by the door like a witness. That bag. Brown leather. Polished to a shine. Way nicer than anything I ever bought for myself. Lately, I'd seen that bag more often than I'd seen her face. For months, I'd been floating around my own marriage like a ghost, orbiting her life without ever touching down. She was always busy, on a call, prepping a pitch, wiped out. That's how she put it these days. Just wiped. Like even being around me was another chore that drained her. I don't know what exactly broke inside me that night. Maybe it was the crow feathers still tucked inside my nightstand drawer. Maybe it was the simple, brutal fact that I couldn't remember the last time I made her laugh. Whatever it was, when she left for a late team drink, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her voicemail. Now, listen, I'm not proud of it. I'm not the snooping type. I'm the guy who leaves sticky notes that say, "Found your charger," with a little heart drawn on, like that's some grand romantic gesture. But that night I snapped. I cracked wide open. I knew her password. She used the same one for everything, our old cat's name, capitalized weird. There were just 3 voicemails waiting. I only needed to hear one. It was a man's voice. Smooth, easy. The kind of voice that doesn't explain itself because it doesn't have to. He didn't even say his name. Just said, "Got your note." Made me smile. "I'll be the one in black. Room 714, same as last time. Bring that wicked laugh of yours. You owe me." I sat there, frozen, not breathing for what felt like forever. Then I hit replay, hand shaking so bad I nearly dropped the phone. I needed to believe I misunderstood somehow. Maybe it was some stupid joke, I thought. Maybe it wasn't what it sounded like. But deep inside, a part of me just nodded along, like it had been waiting for the truth to finally step out into the light. I didn't confront her that night. No blow-up. No dramatic fights. That's not who I am. I just watched her the next morning, pulling on her blazer, asking if the coffee tasted burnt again. And I remember thinking, how many breakfasts had I cooked while she was still wearing another man's kiss? I didn't go to work that day. Called in sick. Prowled around the living room like a restless animal, opening and shutting the fridge for no reason at all. At one point, without thinking, I grabbed her bag. I wasn't even trying to snoop. I was just numb. That's when I noticed it. A different badge tucked into a side pocket. Black and gold. No name. No title. Just a crow. And again, I thought of those feathers. That night, she didn't come home. She texted, though. Don't wait up, babe. Brainstorm marathon LOL. Love you. She had never in her life used LOL. I didn't answer. I just shut off my phone, curled up on the couch, and stared into the darkness until 5:12 a.m., when I heard the front door creak open and the click of heels coming off quietly in the hall. She thought I was asleep. And honestly, part of me was. I didn't realize it at the time, but the version of me that loved her with everything he had? That guy died sometime between that voicemail and the sound of her keys dropping into the bowl. The man who stayed up planning surprise getaways, who noticed when she bought a new shampoo, who picked up little gifts just because he saw something that made him think of her, he was already gone. All that was left was the man counting down the days to the gala. Because I was damn sure going. And I was gonna wear that ugly gray suit she hated, the one with the wrinkled collar. I was gonna lace up my beat-up sneakers instead of any shiny, polished shoes. Not to impress her. Not to win her back. Just to be there. Just to see it through. I wasn't going to the gala to impress her. I wasn't even going to win her back. I needed her to see exactly what she broke. And I wanted to be standing tall when she realized she couldn't put the pieces back together. 3 days before the gala, an email hit my inbox. It caught me off guard. I'd never been invited to these things before. Legacy night was usually reserved for the big shots and their polished plus ones. But there it was, clear as anything, sent straight from the VP's assistant. My name, spelled right for once, sitting inside a little gold envelope icon at the top of my screen. Subject line, you're cordially invited to Hargrave & Company's annual Legacy Night. I just sat there staring at it. Not because I was stunned. No, deep down, something in my gut told me exactly how that invite showed up. Amelia's fingerprints were all over it. Last minute. A little dramatic. Just casual enough that it could pass as coincidence. I could picture her at her desk, maybe half smiling to herself, thinking this would be her olive branch. That I'd show up, fake a smile, stand by her side like the loyal husband, and pretend none of this had cracked me down the middle. But she didn't know. Not yet. I wasn't going there for her anymore. The day before the gala, I did something even I didn't expect. I walked 3 blocks down from our office building to this old tattoo parlor tucked between a pawn shop and a closed-down diner. It wasn't the trendy kind with neon lights and Instagram walls. It smelled like motor oil and old leather. The guy running the place had arms covered in faded poetry lines and a face like he hadn't smiled in 20 years. I didn't get anything flashy. Just one small word, inked into the inside of my left wrist, hidden where only I could catch a glimpse when I rolled my sleeves up a little. Enough. Not out of anger. Not for revenge. Not to make a statement to anyone but myself. It was just a reminder. A line drawn in the sand. This was the moment I stopped waiting to be picked. That night, Amelia came home earlier than she usually did. Not early, but early for her. She had groceries with her. Cooked dinner. Set the table. Even used the good plates we kept buried in the cabinet. She lit a candle, too, the one we bought in Bristol on our 3rd anniversary trip. She used to say it smelled like ocean air mixed with vanilla. I picked at my food more than I ate it. She twirled her pasta around her fork and asked, nervous about the event? You didn't RSVP yet. I swallowed the lump in my throat, pretending like I was focused on the noodles instead of everything else. Figured I'd show up. Seemed important to you, I said. She paused for just half a second. I caught it, though, the smallest flash of something in her eyes. Surprise? Relief? Maybe guilt? Whatever it was, she smoothed it over with another one of those polished smiles she wore at client meetings. It'll be nice, she said. We haven't been out in a while. That part was true enough. We hadn't been anywhere together in months. No late dinners. No date nights. No evening walks through the neighborhood park. Just 2 ghosts haunting the same apartment, tiptoeing around each other's silence like it might explode if we said the wrong thing. That night, lying beside her in bed, I stared at the ceiling while she slept with her back turned to me, like she had for months. I watched the headlights from passing cars flash across our window and thought about how you can be inches away from someone and still feel 100 miles apart. The next morning, there was a box sitting at the foot of the bed, wrapped neat, with a small card taped to the top, for tomorrow night. Inside was a navy silk tie. Designer brand. I recognized the label right away. It was the same one I'd spotted on a receipt weeks earlier, the one she told me was for a client. It still had the store tag hanging off it. Still carried that new fabric smell. I held it in my hands for a minute, thinking maybe it meant something. But it didn't. It wasn't a gift. It was a costume. Something to help me blend into her perfect scene. Something to keep me quiet. But I wasn't interested in being quiet anymore. The night of the gala rolled and wrapped in a heavy, wet fog that clung to everything it touched. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones before you even realize it. I drove us there in silence. Amelia tapped away at her phone the whole ride. Every so often, I caught flashes of the screen, bursts of emojis, a photo I couldn't make out, messages full of laughing faces. None of them sent to me. The hotel looked like something ripped out of a luxury magazine. Towering ceilings. Chandeliers bigger than my first apartment. Marble floors so polished you could see your reflection in them. Every step you took sounded like it cost you a paycheck. As we made our way through the lobby, I watched her straighten her shoulders, lift her chin just so. She let her hand brush lightly against mine, but never actually held it. Her eyes kept scanning the crowd like she was searching for something. And I knew damn well it wasn't me. The ballroom itself was a blur of silver dresses, black suits, clinking glasses, and too loud jazz. White lilies and strange, twisted branches exploded out of the centerpieces at every table. Waiters buzzed around carrying trays of food I couldn't even begin to name. Amelia put on her client meeting smile and started weaving us through the crowd, introducing me with the same breezy tone she might use to talk about a new handbag. "This is Liam, my husband." I shook hands, nodded, said the safe, boring lines. "Nice to meet you. Looks like a great turnout." But my mind wasn't really there. It kept dragging me back to the voicemail, to the crow feather hidden in her planner, to the second ID batch, and to the sick, heavy feeling sitting like a stone in the middle of my chest. About an hour in, Amelia leaned over and said she needed to check on something with the PR coordinator. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, the kind you give a well-behaved kid, and disappeared into the maze of gowns and tuxedos. I didn't follow. I just wandered over to the bar and ordered a club soda. No lime. No garnish. Just something to fidget with, so I didn't feel so empty. While I stood there, a man slid in beside me. Tall. Confident. Black suit, black shirt, no tie. He didn't even look at me. His eyes were locked on the crowd, scanning the room like a wolf sizing up a pen full of rabbits. I knew exactly who he was even though I'd never seen him before. I knew him because of the pin glinting on his lapel. A crow. The same damn crow from Amelia's hidden batch. He leaned his weight against the bar like he owned the place, murmuring something low to the bartender. The second he spoke, my whole body tensed. That voice, it was unmistakable. The same smooth, confident tone I'd heard on that voicemail, still rattling around inside my bones like it had moved in for good. Right then and there, everything clicked. I knew exactly who he was to her. I knew what those late-night brainstorms and emergency strategy meetings were really about. I should have felt fury boiling up in my chest. Should have wanted to smash the glass I was holding. But none of that came. Instead, I felt this wide, hollow emptiness stretching inside me, like something had gutted me clean and the noise of the ballroom couldn't even reach in anymore. That's when I spotted her. Amelia, gliding across the room in her navy dress, smiling just a little too brightly, moving a little too fast. She wasn't headed for me. She was making a straight line for him. I stood there, frozen, and watched as her hand brushed lightly, almost invisibly, against the sleeve of his jacket. Just a tiny, practiced gesture. So small no one else would have thought twice. But I saw it. I saw everything. And like she could feel my eyes on her, she turned. For the smallest flicker of a second, her smile faltered. Just a blink. But it was enough. She pulled herself together in a heartbeat, started weaving her way toward me through the crowd like nothing had happened. A professional performance, right down to the polite little smiles and casual wave. And that's when it hit me. Like a punch straight to the gut. The woman walking toward me wasn't my wife anymore. She was walking toward her alibi. Me. I gripped my glass so tight my knuckles went white, breathing slow through my nose, trying to anchor myself for what came next. Because when she reached for me, When she stretched out that delicate hand, still wearing the gold bracelet I'd given her for our 5th anniversary. I wasn't going to step into the same tired dance we'd been spinning for years. No more fake smiles. No more pretending. She reached out like she always did, graceful, sure, confident that I would follow her lead. Her fingers brushed my wrist, soft and feather-light, like a signal of comfort, of ownership. But everything in me pulled away, recoiled like her touch was ice on cracked skin. I looked at her then. Really looked. Past the careful makeup, the elegant dress, the camera-ready smile. And what I saw behind those pretty eyes wasn't love. Wasn't guilt. It was calculation. A mind already racing ahead, trying to stay 3 moves in front. I leaned in close, close enough that nobody else could hear. Close enough that my breath stirred the little wisps of hair by her ear. And in the calmest, softest voice I could find, I whispered, "Not after this." She didn't crumble. Didn't gasp or fall apart like some sad soap opera. Instead, her face barely shifted, just a flicker of confusion flashing across her eyes before she sucked in a sharp breath and tightened her jaw. She blinked. Once. Twice. I could almost see her brain working, scrambling to come up with a plan fast enough to salvage the night. But it was too late. I straightened up, stepped back, and set my glass down on the bar with a soft little clink that somehow sounded louder than anything else in the room. I didn't make a scene. Didn't yell. Didn't demand an answer. I just walked away. One step. Then another. And the glittering crowd swallowed me whole. Somewhere behind me, I heard her call my name. Softly. The way you'd call a dog, expecting it to come trotting back. But I didn't stop. Didn't turn. Didn't even flinch. I moved through the ballroom like a ghost. Past the fake smiles, the tinkling glasses, the mirrored walls that reflected a version of myself I didn't recognize anymore. Out into the lobby. Through the heavy gold-trimmed doors. Into the night. The fog outside was even thicker now, wrapping the city in heavy, wet silence. I stood there on the sidewalk, feeling the weight of it pressing down on my shoulders. For a second, I thought I might just crumple right there onto the pavement. But I didn't. I made my way to my car, climbed inside, and sat there in the dark. Both hands on the steering wheel, breathing slow and steady, letting the betrayal settle into my bones, exactly where it belonged. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. Over and over. Desperate, relentless. I didn't need to look. I knew who it was. I pictured her standing alone inside that ballroom, panic clawing up her spine as it dawned on her that, for once, she couldn't control the story. She could spin a lot of things. But not this. I didn't answer. I didn't even glance at the messages stacking up, one after another. Instead, I started the car and pulled away. Not toward home. Not back toward the life built on silent sacrifices and careful lies. I just drove. Out into the veins of the sleeping city, letting the empty streets pull me farther and farther away from the man I used to be. Because that night didn't just mark the end of my marriage. It marked the end of the man who thought love was about patience. Who thought loyalty meant endurance. I didn't know where I was headed. Didn't need to. For the first time in years, I was finally the one choosing the direction. I drove until the city lights faded into long, blurry smears across the windshield. Until the freeway gave way to dusty service roads and shuttered motels. My phone buzzed against my ribs, message after message clawing at me like ghosts. But I didn't touch it. I didn't need to hear her voice ever again. Not now. Maybe not ever. It wasn't until I rolled into some no-name town, 3 gas stations, 1 liquor store, and a diner barely hanging on to life, that I finally pulled over. The neon sign flickered weakly, coffee 24/7. I parked, stepped inside, and slid into a cracked vinyl booth all by myself. The place smelled like burnt toast and bleach. They brought me a chipped mug of coffee I had no real plans to drink. I just sat there, staring out the rain-speckled window, feeling the ache inside me like something had been carved out and left hollow. I don't know how long I sat there, letting the condensation drip down the glass, before I finally reached into my jacket and pulled out my phone. 43 missed calls. 17 texts. All from Amelia. They started off simple enough. "Where are you? Smith, please come back. It's not what you think." Then they started unraveling. Panicked, pleading. "We can talk about this, please. You're scaring me. Come home." And then came the last one, the one that hit harder than all the rest. "I love you." Funny, isn't it? 3 words that used to make my heart race. Now, they just made me feel tired. Bone-deep tired. I didn't text back. Didn't even think about it. Instead, I opened up my photo gallery, thumbing through old memories until I found a picture I hadn't looked at in months. It was from a cabin trip we took a couple winters ago. Her cheeks flushed pink from the cold, her hand wrapped around mine like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I stared at that photo, searching her face, trying to match the woman smiling back at me with the woman who had brushed her hand against another man's sleeve like they were passing secrets. I couldn't do it. Maybe they were never the same person to begin with. Maybe the woman I loved only ever existed inside my own hopes. I spent the rest of the night in that diner booth, sipping cold coffee I had no real interest in drinking, thinking about every little thing I'd ignored over the years. Every late meeting, every distracted smile, every apology that sounded hollow but that I still chose to believe, because believing the alternative hurt too damn much. When the sky started to bleed into that soft, pale gray of a new day, I made my decision. Not out of rage. Not to get even. Out of something quieter. Heavier. Final. I paid for the coffee, climbed back in my car, and drove home. The apartment looked exactly the way we had left it. Too clean. Too perfect. Too damn empty. Her keys were tossed on the counter. Her heels set neatly by the door. The faint scent of her perfume still hung in the air like a ghost that hadn't realized it was supposed to move on. I moved through the rooms without a word, grabbing only the things that were mine. My laptop. A couple of old books. The threadbare flannel she always teased me about. I didn't touch any of her things. I didn't leave a note. No long goodbye. No dramatic final words. Just absence. A clean, quiet break. By the time she stumbled through the door around 8:30, still wearing her gala dress, barefoot, mascara smudged under her eyes, the place already felt half dead. She froze when she saw me standing there with my bag slung over my shoulder. "Smith," she gasped, voice catching in her throat. "Please." I shook my head. Slow. Deliberate. There were 1,000 things I could have said in that moment. How could you? Why him? Why lie for so long? Was I ever enough? But I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. One last time. Memorizing the face of the woman I once would have sworn would never hurt me. Then I walked past her, out the door, and didn't look back. Not once. Because when someone gambles with your heart, you don't hand them the chips to play again. In the days that followed, I learned something they don't tell you about in marriage counseling, or in the sad breakup songs on the radio. It's not the fights that leave the deepest bruises. It's the silence afterward. The silence when you wake up alone in a guest room you don't recognize, staring at a cracked ceiling and wondering how you ever convinced yourself that love could be duct-taped back together. The silence when you have to turn off your phone because seeing her name pop up makes your stomach twist and knots you're too tired to untangle. The silence inside your own head, whispering the same brutal questions over and over again. Was it me? Was it something I did? Or didn't do? I stayed at Ethan's place, an old buddy from college. He had a room above his garage that smelled like old newspapers and paint thinner. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. And after everything, real was exactly what I needed. Ethan didn't ask questions when I showed up with nothing but a duffel bag and a hollow look in my eyes. Just grunted, handed me a beer, and left it at that. He didn't need to ask. He knew. Meanwhile, Amelia kept trying to drag me back into the life I'd left behind. Voicemails, emails, messages through mutual friends, half-confessions dressed up as apologies, tearful promises about counseling and fresh starts. She even sent a long letter, handwritten on expensive stationery, stuffed full of shaky regrets and desperate justifications. She said she felt lost, that she needed excitement, that she never meant to hurt me. She tried to spin it like we both somehow stumbled into the mess. Like loneliness was an accident that landed her in someone else's arms. As if betrayal was something you slipped into like a puddle. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because answering would have meant pretending again. Pretending that the damage could be patched up with enough flowery words and Sunday brunches. And I was done pretending. Meanwhile, the office rumor mill kicked into high gear. Word about Amelia and the man with the crow pin started making its rounds. Ethan's girlfriend, who worked 2 floors under Amelia, told me HR had launched a quiet investigation. Anonymous complaints. Whispers about late meetings and sudden promotions and executives who thought they were untouchable. Karma, it turned out, wasn't always fast. But it was thorough. Not that it mattered much to me anymore. I wasn't at war with Amelia. I wasn't even at war with the man she picked. I was at war with the part of myself that believed love could be earned if I just tried hard enough. With the version of me that thought loyalty alone could hold something broken together. Night after night, lying on that lumpy mattress in Ethan's guest room, I thought about the years I poured into a marriage that was already falling apart. I thought about every moment I let slide. Every time I said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. And somewhere between the nights filled with cricket sounds and the distant hum of trucks on the highway, I realized something I should have seen all along. I hadn't just been betrayed by her. I had betrayed myself first by staying silent, by starving for scraps and calling it a feast. The heavy fog that used to sit on my chest started to lift, little by little, like the first ragged light creeping over a bruised horizon. I didn't know what the future held, didn't even pretend to guess, but I knew one thing for certain. It wasn't going to have her in it. Not anymore. Not after this. 6 weeks after I left, I signed the divorce papers. No drama. No big courtroom scene straight out of a movie. No tearful apologies in front of a judge. Just a few cold signatures on a stack of papers that neatly carved our life apart. Assets, debts, freedom. That night, after the final documents were filed, Amelia tried to call me again. I didn't answer. Didn't even listen to the voicemail she left. Some doors, once they shut, aren't meant to swing open again. Doesn't matter how many times someone stands there knocking. And deep down, I think we both knew it. After that, I moved into a small apartment above a dusty old bookstore downtown. The place had crooked floors and a leaky faucet that whined in the middle of the night. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't polished. But it was mine. No perfectly posed photos on the walls. No fake smile memories trapped in silver frames. Just stacks of second-hand books, a beat-up couch, and a window that caught the sunset just right if you opened it before 6. At first, the loneliness hit like a freight train. Some mornings, I'd wake up with a heaviness crushing my chest, and I'd have to sit at the edge of the bed for a while, breathing slow, reminding myself why I left. Reminding myself that peace cost something, and this was the price. But little by little, the ache dulled, became manageable. Then, one day, without even noticing when it happened, I realized it was just gone. I started running again. Not for races. Not for goals. Just because it felt good to run for something that wasn't fear or heartbreak. I started hanging out with Ethan and his girlfriend, crashing their dinners, laughing too hard at dumb jokes, staying way too late because, for once, it felt good to just exist without pretending. I even picked up painting, something I'd always secretly wanted to try but never had the guts to. I used to tell myself it was silly, that it wasn't practical. Turns out, it was exactly what I needed. There was something about throwing colors at a canvas with no plan, no rules, no judgment. It was the most freeing thing I'd ever done. And then, one night while browsing the bookstore downstairs, I met someone. Her name was Grace. She wasn't all glammed up, wasn't dressed like she just stepped off the cover of some magazine. She wore glasses too big for her face and smelled faintly of sawdust and lavender. She talked about books like they were alive. Like every story mattered, even the ones most people ignored. And when she smiled, it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't crafted to impress anyone. It was real. We didn't rush into anything. Didn't try to act like we were all healed and perfect. We were just two bruised people who found a little comfort sitting across from each other, one awkward coffee date at a time. And somehow that was enough. Funny how the worst thing that ever happens to you can sometimes be the thing that finally sets you free. How heartbreak can carve you out just enough to make space for something better. I don't hate Amelia. I don't wish her misery. If anything, I wish her honesty, the kind she could never offer me. I hope she finds whatever it was she was chasing all those nights. She chose to be somewhere else. But as for me, I found something better than forgiveness. I found myself. And this time, I'm not giving him up for anybody. Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.